This will probably sound crazy, and I haven't heard a story like it yet on your channel, Mandy. About 5 years ago, my now husband proposed to me with a gorgeous antique engagement ring that he bought at an antique store in our local mall. We had talked about rings about a year prior to our engagement, and I told him I absolutely did not want a brand new ring. I wanted a piece of jewelry that would make a statement and that had a history. I could buy a regular new diamond ring anywhere, since an engagement was such a special event and a big part of our history. I wanted something that had a history itself. He said he looked for almost 6 months, even forming a connection with the owner of my favorite antique store, where he ultimately ended up purchasing my ring. They were on a first-name basis, and he called every time he found a piece he thought I might love. He knew my taste in jewelry and antiques in general, because I'd bought many pieces from him in the last 10 years. The proposal caught me so off guard, I didn't know it was coming anytime soon. I knew it would someday, but never did I imagine it would be this day. It was a typical Saturday, in the sense that we weren't doing anything out of ordinary. We had a typical date night planned, or so I thought. My husband did tell me he had made reservations at our favorite steakhouse, but I didn't think much of it. We had date nights at least twice a month. Anyway, the night was normal at first, until my mom showed up to our date night, carrying one single rose. Then, 11 of my other closest family members and friends each did the same, until I was holding a dozen roses, tears streaming down my face, because I knew this was it. Before I knew it, a man came out playing our song on a guitar, and my husband popped the question, after a long speech about how much he loved me and my family. He knew my family and friends meant the world to me, so it was super special he included them. The ring was absolutely gorgeous, a cushion-cut diamond with a row of smaller diamonds around the whole thing. It was perfect. He didn't even have to tell me where he got it. I knew instantly. That night, I couldn't stop staring at the ring. It was perfect and so shiny. The way the diamond caught the light and sparkled was so distracting. Later, when we were home and settled in for bed, I was admiring my ring and thanked my new fiancé again. He was half asleep. We stayed out celebrating until nearly 1 a.m. I kissed him on the forehead and laid back to drift off to sleep. The next thing I know, I was waking up to my husband holding me, telling me everything was okay, and wiping tears from my eyes. I was super confused because I didn't remember anything happening. "You were having the most intense nightmare I've ever seen anyone have," he said. "Me? I don't have nightmares," I said. "Well, you were shaking and crying and yelling, 'Don't hurt me,'" concern still on his face. I had no recollection of anything that happened in that nightmare when I woke up, and I still don't to this day. The next day, I was working on my pottery wheel, so of course I put my expensive, irreplaceable antique engagement ring on my ring holder on my dresser. Later, I headed in to take a shower, got dressed, and went to put my ring back on. I didn't like having it off, and pretty much only removed it for the pottery wheel. The ring was gone. I had set it right there. I instantly felt my heart start racing. I lost it, but I couldn't have. I set it right there, in that jewelry holder. I know I did. Frantically, I searched the entire apartment from top to bottom. I got flashlights out, looking down drains, and was just about to call my fiancé when there it was, in the jewelry dish, right where I left it. "Am I going insane?" I said out loud, starting to cry tears of relief. At the time, I really thought I might be going crazy. The nightmare, the ring incident, it had only been 2 days since the proposal, Was I really that high on cloud 9 that I just spaced out? That night, as we lie awake in bed, watching one of our favorite shows and catching up on the day's events, I stared at the ring, wondering how I would have explained to my fiancé it being missing 2 days after being given to me. For the next 2 weeks, I had nightmares almost every night, and I started to remember bits and pieces of what I was dreaming about. In my dream, I saw the ring on a young woman about my age, but also saw her being harmed by someone she loved. I would wake up, drenched in sweat, like the first night, shaking in fear. One night, after a late-night shower, I forgot to put the ring on. I left it lying on the bathroom counter. That night, I had the best night's sleep I'd had in over 2 weeks. I started to wonder if maybe somehow the ring had something to do with it. I slipped it back on the following day, and sure enough, I had such an off day. All day, I kept misplacing things, and that night, I had the nightmare again. Waking up to my husband rocking me in his arms again, I said, "I think it's this ring. I love it, but there's something wrong," I said, looking down at it. "We'll get a new one. I know you love it, but if it's giving you nightmares, I don't want you to wear it," he answered. I told my sister the next day what was happening, and she told me about this video that she had watched about haunted objects, and how they can be just as powerful as a regular ghost haunting a home, not attached to anything. She said the ring could be cleansed. She knew how distraught I was over the thought of selling the ring back to the antique store, so she tracked down someone who could cleanse it for me. Within 2 days, I had it back on, and since then, I've never experienced nightmares or anything. Wow, that makes you wonder what the story is behind the ring. I'm so glad your sister knew what to do about it and that it worked. I've heard that sometimes spirits are too strong and don't move on after a cleanse. Thank you for writing in. It was cool to hear about a haunted item that isn't a doll. If you have a paranormal story to share, email it to the address in the description below. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.